welcome back, guys. Just bear with me while I navigate these steps. Pure marble and another Cypriot thunderstorm don't go well, so if I don't quite get this right, the next episode might be broadcast from Ward 4 of Paphos General Hospital. Anyway, I thought I'd bring you up to the roof terrace today because it's probably the best way to do this. I'll just get myself settled. So, as you might have guessed, with regard to the thumbnail title, it's a comment regarding the ongoing situation in Iran and the Middle East generally. So, I'm quite surprised really by people's reactions to the media. Do we believe it? I'm sure there's always an element of truth in there, but BBC, CNN, Fox, CBS, GB News, the Daily Mail, the Daily Mirror, the Daily Star, the Daily Telegraph, all these people have got a big responsibility. Sky TV and all the rest of that have got a real big responsibility to broadcast the truth, in my opinion, and some of them I think are a little bit sensationalistic journalism, lazy journalism even, and I thought I would put my two pence in. Again, you might not believe what I'm saying, but I'm here in Cyprus, as are a lot of other people, and I just want to give you an overview of somebody who's not got any meat on the bones, i.e. I'm not involved in the tourist industry, I haven't got a business out here, I've got no financial reason to tell you anything other than the way I'm seeing it. So again, I'm quite surprised at the number of people who don't actually know where Cyprus is. So I thought I'd bring you up here and give you a little bit of a geography lesson as to why and where, and what I'll do, I'll swing you around and we'll go from there. So if you think of the Med as a giant bathtub, shall we say, and Cyprus is at the sink end, shall we call it. So it's the big rubber duck. Cyprus is the big old yellow rubber duck, and other rubber ducks in there. You've got Crete, you've got Malta, you've got the Balearics towards Spain, etc. So roughly where are we in the world? We're at the eastern end of the Mediterranean, at the crossroads between Europe, Asia and North Africa. So Cyprus is quite unique in just where it is. If you look over there, you can see in the distance the hillsides and mountains. Beyond that, quite a bit away, is what's known as the occupied territory, and that's occupied by Turkey and has been since 1974. If you're not familiar with the story, just type in Cyprus 1974 and you'll get more than enough information to fill your boots in that one. So around there you've got Turkey, then next, generally speaking, you've got Greece, then you've got a little bit of Albania, then you're going towards Italy, Spain, France, Monaco and all the yachts, and then you're kind of going down at the end of Spain, somewhere over there, a couple of 1,000 kilometres away perhaps, you've got Gibraltar. You go through the gap between Gibraltar and North Africa, swing a right, you're going up past Portugal, bouncing around eventually towards the Channel Islands, top end of France, and then eventually you would probably bump into the Isle of Wight in your little dinghy. If you come back towards Gibraltar, as I mentioned, you then to start to get into North Africa. Just across the Strait of Gibraltar you've got the coast of Morocco, for instance. You've got, let's have a look, you've got Algeria, you've got Tunisia, you've got Libya, all the way around. You've got Egypt, which is around about 350 to 400 miles down that way. Then you're getting in towards the serious players. So Israel, probably around about 200 miles or so. Then you've got Lebanon, you've got the Gaza Strip, you've got Syria, and you're kind of back towards Turkey. Behind Turkey you've got the Black Sea, and you've got Ukraine and Russia fighting. And then behind the likes of Syria, you've got the Gulf states, you've got Iran, you've got Iraq, you've got Oman, you've got Bahrain, you've got Saudi Arabia, and down about 1,100 miles down there you've got the Straits of Hormuz, where all the oil is stuck, and which is why everybody's paying extra for their fuel, and everybody's paying extra for their electricity and all the rest of it, and apparently everybody's going to be paying extra for the mortgages as well. So as I said, Lebanon are generally being accused of firing the drone that came through and hit the RAF base at Akrotiri, which by the way is about 35 to 40 minutes away, and caused us to get dragged into it. Although I've got my own opinion on how one little drone has managed to get through and why it's been allowed to get through potentially, but that again is just my opinion. Yeah, so as we said, the subject today is of course regarding the situation that's ongoing in Iran and the general Middle East area, but I'm just going to give you it as a typical expat in Cyprus and what I've seen and what I've heard. So if I go back and roll it back to the beginning, our flight, yeah, there was a few empty rows and a few other odd dotted spaces here, there and everywhere, but bear in mind it's nowhere near the start of Cyprus's peak season. You would expect a few gaps on the plane, and that's as it proved. Nobody was mentioning the ongoing war and how they were concerned. And I'm not saying you guys shouldn't be concerned. Everybody's got to do their own risk assessment, make their own choice, believe or not believe what's in the media, listen to friends, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, ironically enough, here I am, and then do what you think is best for you. But I didn't notice anything significant at the airport. There were a couple of guys, police guys with machine guns. That's standard anywhere from Luton to Lisbon to Marrakesh to Schiphol. You have security people with machine guns. It's just standard practice. It's more reassurance generally. Yes, as we arrived on our flight, before we got to the terminal, there was a large military transporter plane that came in behind us, directly behind us. Some people surmise that it may well be shadowing us in. Who knows? I'm not party to what's going on operationally, militarily, but that's as close as we've seen to military activity. While I've been here, I've seen no fighter jets zooming overhead, no drones being intercepted, no ballistic missiles being intercepted. I've seen 4 military helicopters just generally buzzing, but bear in mind we are between a civilian airport and the RAF base. You would expect normal routine stuff going on. I've seen 4 military planes, no, like I said, no jet fighters whatsoever, and not seen sight or sound of any of the warships that are circling this place. So if you think about it, Cyprus, as an EU member state, is going to get that assistance, and you've seen that from the likes of Greece and France and Spain and Germany, etc., and of course latterly the UK, who are also NATO members along with Turkey and Greece. So I would say this is probably one of the most protected islands anywhere in the world at this moment in time. What's it done for the economy here? Well, obviously there's concern with regard to tourism. Seen on some of the forums all the seasonal staff who are usually getting the call up now to come in sort of from end of March in the build up to Easter and then through the summer season. Some of their contracts have been held off a little bit by the hotels while they reassess what's going to go transpire, I suppose. Our taxi driver that we had from the airport said the week before last was a complete write-off with carriers more than people cancelling, but last week was back to kind of normal for them for the airport runs, so that's a positive. On the ground here, there's people out and about along the harbours, there's people in the souvenir shops, there's people in the shopping malls, there's people on the beaches, And there's absolutely, honestly, no sign that there's a conflict going on. Like I say, about 1,000 miles or so in that direction. I'm only speaking from my experience, but if you're out here now, drop a comment. Honestly, give an honest and candid opinion of what you've seen. You may be in a different part of the island, and the atmosphere might be totally different there. If you're not coming because you've seen what you've seen on the news, fair enough. But just drop a comment in there. Email me privately, and just, is it the news? Is it the media? Are you generally scared? We've seen people asking, they're coming out in September, will it be okay? Well, who can ever predict that? Who can ever predict that? But if you think about it, the likes of Ryanair and Jet2 and Air Malta and British Airways and TUI and all that lot, if they had any inkling that some of their passenger jets were going to get bombed out the skies, they won't be coming anywhere near this place. Seriously, the Foreign Office would close all routes out. You wouldn't get anywhere near Cyprus. To be honest with you, when I'm walking out on a night, I feel as safe as safe. There's no anti-aircraft guns in town squares or on building roofs, certainly not on this roof terrace anyway. And you would not know that anything anywhere is happening in this region. And it's not to trivialise what's going on. There's some very serious things happening in the world generally. Like I say, north of me here, Ukraine and Russia are fighting, and they have been for several years. Israel are fighting with Lebanon over there, and Israel being about an hour away, but the airspace there is closed at the moment, so we do have Israeli citizens who are stuck in Cyprus. And generally speaking, it's always the ordinary people that are affected. But honestly, I wouldn't say to anybody that I know or don't know to not come to Cyprus. I would say, yes, make your own decisions, but I made mine and I've no concerns whatsoever. When I spoke to folk I know, they were kind of from, are you mad, Chris, to the other end of the scale, you are mad, Chris. Yep, that's their opinion. They're basing it on the fact that they think there's rockets and missiles and fighter jets and all sorts going off. Not heard anything of that, honestly. It's as safe as it's ever going to be as far as I'm concerned. Yes, things can escalate, things can change, but like I said, this island is currently surrounded by warships with all sorts of bristling technology, and Cyprus is safe, in my opinion. But like I say, if you've experienced something different and you want to warn people, please do so. Again, also, if you're here and you're feeling quite safe and relaxed, as I am, and are quite happy to be here and would come back again for another holiday further on in the year, then please drop a comment in. Hope this has been helpful. This is an honest opinion. Like I said, I've got no loyalty financially to anybody or anything on this island at this moment in time. I've got a 12-month residency here, so yeah, I mean, I could skip off the island and still pay my rent and still be safe, but no, I think you've got more chance of getting into bother in the middle of Manchester, if I'm being frank. And I won't need the tin hat that I mentioned in the thumbnail. Honestly, I've got more chance of falling down them steps and ending up in Ward 4 of Pathos General Hospital. But thanks for tuning in. If you've got any comments, brilliant. If you'd like to subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything, and you might get further videos in due course. And if there's anything that's of interest to you, then please just join in. Thanks.